Well, it's
I
a
will
better
say that
screenplay.
this has a better. I love the color palette in this whole movie.
Oh, which
Yeah.
remind me a bit of Terminal Man because it was like black, white, and gray, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, and so
And I love the Edward Hopper
Jacques Tati said that he
inspired,
wanted to look like it. He said he wanted to look
pharmacy.
like it was black and white, but with color.
yeah, it works. But
There's a red item also in almost every scene.
yeah,
That's right. I
There's
read
only
that
like one or two scenes where there isn't any.
yeah, like a red little something.
Oh, there's that one waiting room where everybody had a boutonniere, a red lapel. I thought those were going to do something, like they were going to spy on him or blink or something like that, and then nothing happened.
They were just Flanders
Back
poppies.
yet? Is Johnny here?
No.
I always want to hear what John says, but I have a thing like
See it.
He didn't see
didn't
the
watch
film,
it.
so it doesn't matter what he says.
I watched this in college once, and then I watched it again this time, and I still think that this should be. This is just an initial thought. Maybe it should have just been a short film.
No,
No,
it
the
builds.
45 minute scene in the
Restaurant?
nightclub is so fucking good.
Wait a minute.
It's Tarantino
Tim,
wishes he could do
Tim,
that.
you hated this movie before we even started. Now you like it?
Oh yeah, you weren't there. It reminds me of France. When I was young, I hated France and Paris, and as I get
but
older,
now you like it because you're old.
yeah, I totally
yeah,
understand.
okay.
I think it's a stunt. It is a remarkable stunt. The blocking on this movie, I can't even get my head around.
No.
Well, I read
Well,
Ebert's
it
review,
took
and
him
this
3 years, right?
Yeah.
yeah, it took him 3 to 4 years to make this. It reminded me of, or Ebert said that it's that kind of movie that's like stands out as one of a kind, like Russian Ark.
Yeah.
I was going to mention Russian Ark because it really reminded me sort of that. Plus, I also got the feeling if you've ever sat in Paris, if you've ever sat on a terrace at a cafe and just watched the world go by, that's sort of what this movie is like. You're just watching stuff happen.
Well,
All I want to do in my
Like
life
a giant
is sit
ant farm.
in Paris.
This is
at a
all about
cafe.
mise en scène. It's like go ahead and hit the horn if
Oh
you like.
wait,
But-
Dad,
But I'm using
Dad.
it. I'm using it accurately this time. This is where you set.
I did too.
Doesn't matter.
As opposed to
Bert,
I heard
Bert.
John. I heard John. That's good. Wait,
I unplugged my mic.
where you're actually having just really discrete and very disconnected planes of action happening in one frame. There's this
Yeah,
one
it
gag, the
was
one
like-
gag that made me laugh out loud, which was like during the part of the nightclub where it was getting too hot in there and the plane started melting on the little thing.
Oh, when it
Yes.
comes back up.
And
when
then
it comes back up.
again, it was like, what a payoff. That was really
But I was
funny.
like, I got to tell you, like I was 20 minutes in and I was done.
yeah.
This should have been a 20-minute film.
I just think
See it
in
again when you're
that
60.
scene specifically, I think they build and build and build and build and build in such a fascinating way. So
Yeah.
then when it gets to the point that he tears down the facade and it's all hanging down and it makes a door and all of that stuff, you're in such a different mental place by the time that you get there. You almost feel like you're in his part of the party at that point.
Yeah.
You have gotten to the point where you are now enjoying the utter chaos of the scene. And
when like the musicians just leave
when they just
and the
leave,
lady gets up there and plays the piano. her
Plays the
one
piano.
piece.
But I did love. I mean, visually, it's all pretty pleasing.
It's
Uh,
It was very
I think
pleasing.
I think one of the best scenes visually was when he's at the sandwich bar and there's like that green neon light
Yes,
coming down on
the
them.
Edward
And the
Hopper look.
background, but the background is still the same. It's still
Right.
the same as that gray palette.
there.
No,
And
it's-
you know that all pharmacies in France have that green cross, and so you.
I
that's what
actually
you
didn't
look
know that.
for.
I thought they were selling
Yeah.
marijuana there.
That was a pretty visually striking sequence.
It was.
and also all of the food is ridiculous in that. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
actually look at the food on the that's on display, all of it looks like some sort of
They made like a little. That's the scene.
some sort of monstrous fucking
They take a little screen
You mean
shot.
at the pharmacy place
Yeah.
bar?
It's
it was
Yeah.
just
I
it was
noticed
just-
that because they They end up eating hot dogs, or are they eclairs?
No, I think they're what do you call it? The sandwich that's like prosciutto and butter.
Oh, so like a
Yeah,
panini
it's
jambon.
with a baguette.
Yeah.
They just cut a baguette in half.
Yeah, and you put
do.
prosciutto and butter on it.
Yeah.
It's I just want to point out that I think it's really a crime that Barbara Denick didn't do anything else. She's in this movie and nothing else.
Yeah.
And I think part of it might be because she never gets a close up, because Tati hated.
Well, Jacques,
Tati hates close-ups.
He felt they were vulgar.
So
He
he never
ashamed
gives her a close-up, so she never gets to have that movie star moment of being the big face on screen. And I think that made it so that no one really looked for her.
And this was shot in 65 millimeter, and that does not lend itself to close-ups.
No, it was shot 70 millimeter.
Well, it says 70 means 65.
It's 65.
I won't go into it. That's a negative.
But also just all deep focus.
Yeah, all deep focus. The thing is that the gauge itself lends itself to medium shots and wide shots, and there's nothing but wide shots in here.
Also, I thought the best use of it is with the two apartments that are next to each other. So you're on the street looking at these two apartments, looking at the TV set where it looks like they're.
Oh, that was a wonderful scene. Well, there's this imaginary dialogue going on with these two apartments.
Right. They're talking, but you can't hear it.
Most of this movie seems to be imaginary dialogue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
it's all ADR. It's all ADR.
It's all muttering.
I'm sure he shot it in
dialogue.
There's a part where a waiter waters all the ladies' hats. That was good. That was funny.
Also, the whole first, so I read that, I think it might have been Ebert that said, this is 67, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it was released.
The cubicle look the cubicles weren't a thing.
No,
actually, probably not in France, especially.
Well, and not in America either, I think. And he, Tati, sort of invented the cubicle with this movie.
I believe it.
Well, but if you notice, it's the step it's the step between having your own office and a cubicle. It's full size walls, but it's open at the bottom.
But they have these
this would be a good double feature with the apartment,
office space,
Brazil,
or office.
This would be a great double bill with office space.
Yeah,
Brazil.
That would be the best.
Well, I love that. Their idea of cubicles are these four walls, and you had to find the door.
Brazil is what
they're not open on one end like most cubicles are.
Brazil is what happens in the future of the expo that he goes to. If you take that expo to its logical conclusion, it ends up with pulling back and forth on your desk because someone's using the other side of it. That's literally where that aesthetic goes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quite get where. How did he make it from the office building to the expo? Does he go through a door or something?
No,
I gave up trying to figure that shit out.
There's a lot of times where he shows up in things where you're like, that didn't make any sense.
Well, however, that's what the continuity I thought was very strong in this. The filmmaking itself was super strong.
Sometimes he's remember when he's above looking down through the glass? There's so much. First of all, let's talk about just glass in this movie.
Oh yeah. And hiding your camera and
on glass.
but there's one scene where he's looking down, still trying to find the gentleman he's trying to meet, and he's right by an escalator, which was never there before.
You guys ever remember these books?
Oh
yeah.
That was
I know those books because I read them to my son. No, but you get to it's such a wide screen of action that you get to. Just like when you're an audience member in a play, you get to choose where you look and what you follow.
Right.
Well, that also means you choose what you miss.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But that's you will miss things in
that's why
no matter
you need to
what.
watch the thing multiple times.
Well, that's the meson thing. You actually pick the thing yourself. You pick what you're going to watch.
Wait a minute. He said meson thing. He said meson thing.
Meson scène thing.
Hit it.
I must have skipped on you. I said meson scène thing.
I don't know. I think that we should start calling it meson thing.
Let's just talk about that for a second.
I'm gonna have to buy a new one of these.
Hold on, no. Just because you're gonna define this thing, right? It's not that there was something about this movie.
Mise en scène is real and it's good. So Tad.
No, I'm not. No, You don't get that one.
There were points.
Now we're
in the
just trying to
movie
get
where I
Tad to honk the horn.
Right.
This thing felt as composed within the four corners of the frame as any Wes Anderson or Kubrick movie I've ever seen, maybe more so at times.
Right.
The
Well,
way that he
yeah.
made
I think it's
all
more
that-
not as
successful.
good.
I think
Not
it's
as
more
good.
successful than most Wes Anderson movies. Like,
This was being,
No,
but
not as
500
good,
miles
though.
away when he was shooting this. Kubrick was shooting 2001 on 65 millimeter as well, and there's like they both are real meticulous. They're both like the framing is very very tight, and
Yeah.
a lot of the same
Just the
philosophies
frame-
are going
And
in.
they're
where-
both Russian.
where
Jews.
things were within the frame, and it's chaos, but it was never visually chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
But tonally, I mean, he's more like Wes Anderson than he is Kubrick, and I would think, Chris, this would have really scored a bullseye for you.
This one scratched a lot of OCD buttons for me.
Right.
Having said that, and because I was thinking about what Jim said when I picked these, like, this is like why the French like Jerry Lewis, and I kept waiting for the Jerry Lewis shit to kick in, and it kind of didn't really kick in for me till maybe toward the very end at the restaurant.
It's not that.
I don't think it's funny. It's clever as shit, though.
Yeah.
It's Jerry Lewis is more like gag funny. This is not that.
Yeah.
Well, no,
To
but
Although there are gag
To
funny
be
things.
honest, Chris, the reason I've heard the reason from the French that Jerry Lewis is so enjoyed in France
Like no
is
doubt.
because the guy they have
Oh, he
who,
does, but it's all
who
like
dubs
PR
him, it's the
background
same
dialogue.
person in all the Jerry Lewis movies.
Got it.
Wait a
And
minute,
he's
what?
really good.
The guy who dubs him?
The guy who dubs the Jerry Lewis parts.
He was
Yes.
his biggest celebrity in France is Jerry Lewis. But they also the Cahiers du Cinema people knew that Jerry Lewis was kind of a
This is my
budding
favorite meeting
auteur.
I can smoke.
This is a very much
Able to because I'm inside my house.
the line between Jacques Tati and Jerry Lewis is very strong because they're both auteurs. They're both trying to they're
They're
actively
definitely doing their own thing.
they're actively making art as you're watching it. It's kind of like watching Playtime is like watching a painting being painted. And he puts together a scene, he adds and adds and adds, like the whole scene in the nightclub. He adds and adds and adds, and you're watching it all created in front of your eyes. And that's what
Jacques
Jerry Lewis does in a lot of his businesses.
Eyebrow Jerry Lewis then.
Yeah, it is. Well, Jacques Tati, I thought was kind of like a French version of Charlie Chaplin late career. He does a lot of mugging and pratfalls, and I don't know.
Yeah,
his personal comedy.
it's very yes, I agree with you,
It's
Scott.
toned
But
down
not-
for playtime.
but not,
I
but
guess.
yeah, toned down. It's not as entertaining as Chaplin.
Well,
yeah,
Chaplin,
Well, no,
but Chaplin was
Tati's
inventing.
earlier flick,
Chaplin
too.
was inventing something.
That's true.
This movie is not inventing something; it's refining something. And and I think that refining something can be very good and can be very interesting. And in this case, I think it is. But
I don't know if he's. I don't know. This is kind of inventive. There's not a lot of movies that.
not
like
in. I'm
I've
not
never
saying it's
seen
not
anything like this.
inventive. I'm saying that this isn't inventing a new genre. This isn't creating from whole cloth an entire way of thinking about a movie. This is a refinement of a movie. And
What is it?
no, it's not a movie. Fuck it. We're done. Shut it all down.
Okay, who was the gatekeeper there? I missed it.
Well, the secret owner of this thing was obviously never mind. but yeah, but it was like I said, it had several like light narrative lines that went through it. And it was kind of fun. At the end, the scene behind me was kind of like pathetical statement.
That
It was like,
scene was amazing to me.
yeah, but it's like this
Again,
is,
the blocking of
Yeah,
that
but
scene.
obviously
he was
because-
also the blocking was excited. It was genuinely exciting because he brought all the color in.
No, but I suggest that scene, that the actual turnaround
Mhm.
is those are all stationary cars actually, and they're turning a set, and then they cut to cars actually moving. Because if you look really close,
That's a big
Yeah, no,
set
no,
to
no,
move,
listen.
dude.
no, listen.
Do you not know about how big this set was? This set,
Yes, no,
this
no,
set
but,
was
but
They
you're saying,
built it in a huge
hear me out,
field on
hear
the
me out,
outskirts
hear
of
me
town.
out, hear me out.
All right,
When
all
you
right.
see that wide shot, those cars are actually not moving. It's
Like on a carousel.
yeah, it's a carousel that's moving
That
all
was
of them at
Giant
once.
fucking carousel.
And then they cut to the cars actually moving individually.
Yeah,
No,
I guarantee
but
you.
it makes
actually-
me
that's
think
not-
of all of Jean-Luc Godard's
That is not without
traffic
merit.
jams.
They
and
make some
such.
big fake carousel. They can run like on a big motor that makes it all go, and then they can
But
make,
watch it again. Those
I
cars don't move. they just move perfectly in circles.
They don't move relative to each other in some
exactly.
Of
they don't. Yeah, exactly. It's like a carousel ride.
I'll buy
they don't
that
move independently.
So that's great.
They're
technique.
moving all as one. They're moving all as one piece, and then he cuts to really nice shots of the cars moving independently.
That makes sense because if you actually think about it, doing it that way would give you more control. It's like putting a car in a flatbed.
Well, that's what he was all about, is control. He wanted control of everything, and that is a fucking carousel.
No, I'll buy
What's
that.
with the bouncing? What's with the bouncing in this movie or in this scene?
Well, this is
Do you know what I'm talking about?
The point I'm trying to make at this thing is that he's finally saying this is all just fun. The world is a circus, and it's all rides up and down, and woo, and they do the thing.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, I think that's what he's trying to symbolize.
There's the woman on the back of the motorcycle, and then there's the VW bug, and the VW bug is also bouncing, and they're at different points in it, and there's nothing connecting it in the middle. Like it's
a carousel. It's a up and down carousel.
No.
That's what he's trying to say in that.
Now you're saying that,
and that's what it literally is. It literally.
So now, right? That's what I'm saying. So now what you're saying is that he built a carousel and then made it a carousel.
Pretty much, he made a carousel to make the shooting practical, but he's supposed to say he was also saying life is a carousel. But I couldn't help thinking of that musical by Coppola. He built the world.
Sure.
He built Las Vegas.
Yeah. Coppola built Las Vegas.
Actually,
this guy built Paris.
And this guy bankrupted himself making this. Why didn't Coppola learn?
Well, we also know that this guy,
Coppola
this
burned
was
himself out.
In American dollars, this was like $40 million at that time.
Yeah.
It bankrupted him.
Yes.
And he had to fucking sell his house. He had to sell everything.
Yeah.
And then it was critically acclaimed, but commercially, this was a disaster at first.
I think it bankrupted the studio also. Yeah. Like it wasn't just him, because he personally was into it for a bunch of money, but then the studio also, I think.
As I understand it, this is, as far as he was concerned, the only movie he was ever able to make without compromising.
Yeah. Well, he got the big.
That's all on screen.
You got every penny, every franc is on screen in this.
Well, not just every franc, but no compromises. There are no.
But this is
compromises
also up against, again, this is a weird parallel to 2001. Same thing. Maximum effort, big budget, no compromises, a full auteur vision at work. And they came out with, they're making different films and they're different filmmakers. And the results, one was, it took 2001 a while to make its money. It wasn't a huge.
Right. It wasn't a critic. It wasn't a commercial.
It confused more people than people loved it. It became a classic later on.
It's too long. It's too long in a time when movies are short.
Yeah.
And also Kubrick built a carousel, but he just turned it on its side.
Yeah. Well, carousels again.
But I still think. Does anyone think this movie? I don't know. I know it's brilliant, but I don't want 2 hours of this.
There were points where it's like, all right, like.
I think you could take 20 minutes out of this movie.
Yeah. I think this should get 20. No, I think it should be.
I know you,
film.
but
I think you're right, Tad. About 20.
Yeah. I think if this is an hour, if this is an hour 40, I think it's a something I'm not going to watch this again anytime soon. If this was an hour 40, I probably would have turned around and watched it again immediately after I was done watching it.
Yeah, because you.
But how many? Okay, so. But let me
I think yelling about movies should have its own disc label where we put out our edits of all the films, where we take out how much Tad says we should take out of each film.
Right.
And how much Tad didn't recommend it. Okay, hold on.
So the Phantom Menace would be like 5 minutes long.
Yeah, it would be the fight. Sequence. It would be the fight sequence. It would be Duel of the Fates, and that's it.
Yep. And all the good stuff is out. Yeah,
also. I want to point out that the music in this movie is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to know though,
the band at the bar.
They were good. They're everybody dancing for one thing.
Both bands, the first band and the second.
It was interesting how the dancing changed.
The dancing in between the tables.
The scene was falling down
because they went from Dixieland almost. They went from jazz anyway.
Like. I almost beatnik, like I don't know what the hell you call that. It was glorious.
Right.
Yeah. And then by the time they get to the pianist, she's doing like chansons, like
because that's because the ceiling was falling down because that's a restaurant. That the restaurant was under development.
I was like, have you guys never heard of a soft open?
No, Jim, you took my line. I'm saying this is all a cautionary tale about not doing a soft open on a restaurant. Yeah.
I love the poor schmuck who's like outside and people keep coming up and giving him parts of their uniform.
I know, that's the best. He wanders in and everything thinks he's a bum.
That feels like the Chaplin. That feels like the Chaplin reference.
Yeah, there is Desiree Chaplin.
Yeah. How about the whole bit where the bartenders have a thing in front of their heads and they
those big
around it.
Yes,
which we use in our logos these days. So I want to point that out.
They can't that's why that restaurant. But the thing is when the dance changed is when the ceiling starts falling. It's supposed to be an art piece, but it's falling down on them.
All right.
And even though
it's falling down on the audience, and that's when the band's like, "We got to fucking go. We can't."
The doorman with the
handle.
Where he has it behind him, and the guy keeps pulling on it. He keeps pulling it back.
Yeah. this is the best one. You get a drunk guy that just blows through, and like as if it's not even there because it's not.
Right.
Well, because the bull-headed guy throws him out, the bouncer.
This has to be the best movie with uses of glass doors ever, though.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is. Well, the thing is, the whole thing looks like Mission Bay in San Francisco. Nothing like France.
And also the sound design on those glass doors and everything. Of course, that's his forte, but it is brilliant.
But that whole
that deep being able to hear and not being able to hear in the apartment scene is so good.
Right.
Apparently
are we boring you already?
No way.
I can't remember what, but there's a film magazine that did a whole thing about that specific scene in 2012. They basically dedicated like an issue to it.
Dang.
And I want to find that. Because it's called like Illusions or something like that. It's from if you look on the IMDb trivia, it's listed in there.
We lost.
We lost Ted.
We lost Mr. Ted.
First sec, Ted. Repeat it.
First.
I want to find that article and read it because it just sounds really interesting.
Okay. Yeah, we don't hear that. It was just reminding me of just how much that opening scene behind Chris. It's like that's a slow build that gets you used to how this film is structured.
Oh, when he drops the umbrella and everyone turns and looks.
Yeah. But there's like a German officer there. There's a nice couple there, and they're having also their own kind of things. And you have to figure out what's going on, and you get more and more into it as you go. And it's just really well structured. And when you end the scene, you have the feel for the rest of the film ready to go.
I particularly liked in the nightclub scene, the Americans are not the ugly Americans in that. They sort of show up, they eat, and they leave, and everybody else is being.
Well, and everyone else is like fucking tourists. This is too many tourists, blah blah blah, and they're not a problem.
Yeah,
and she ends
totally
up
not a problem.
And she ends up playing the piano.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one dude from America, he ends up having a little club in the back, and he's having the best time of anybody there.
I still think one of my favorite parts, honestly, is just the chairs, the squishing of the chairs.
Yes.
How subtle is that?
You guys notice
those stupid chairs kept showing up over and over again.
The heads on the walls kept.
Well, and the best part is that he's experiencing the squishing chairs, and then he gets roped into a store that's selling the squishing chair.
And then he goes to his friend's house, and his friend shows him he has the chair. So
he's quite proud of his
chair
again.
It pops back up.
John, is this movie sounding interesting to you yet?
Yeah. I'll probably catch up with it one of these days.